word. Amen? Which is probably not true. But these are words of Jesus that we have built today's theme around from Luke 12. Jesus says, do not be afraid. Right? Do not be afraid. Do not fear, little flock. For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Amen? God who woke us up this morning, God who forgives us and makes a way for us, God is worthy. Amen? God is worthy of our praise and our worship and expressions of love. So, I'm being stretched in ways I never thought possible. You probably noticed. The other day, my son, I was getting dressed, I was putting my shirt on. Zach looked at me and said, Dad, God made you weird. I said, what do you mean God made me weird? He said, God made you weird. God gave you a little head and a big belly. So I explained to my son that God did not create this. I did, right? In fact, in being stretched, my clothes, especially my shirts that once fit so nicely, again, are butting up against some type of barrier. And I was having a conversation, in fact, with Mark Felton and Eddie Daniels about just the plight of getting older and what happens to our bodies and the like. And so Mark had mentioned to me, he said, you could try a dress shirt called an executive cut. It's made for executives because executives, as male executives get older, they tend to have larger cuts. And so executive cut, I'll try that. So I went online and Joseph A. Bank was having a big sale, so I found the executive cut and I ordered them for my size and went to the store. They called me, said they're in, went to pick them up, and I tried them on, and yeah, they didn't. They were still snug, but they had cufflinks. That's why they were executive for Joseph Bank. They call them just because they have cufflinks, and I'm just not a cufflink guy. I mean, I'm not against cufflinks. I think it's great if you wear it, but it's just not my style. I'm more of a, honestly, jeans and t-shirts. I like to shop at Goodwill and Savers if I can. And that's just who I am. So cufflinks weren't going to cut it. So I decided to take them back. I went to the store up here at Ricestown Road and was talking to the sales lady, and I said I wanted to take these shirts back, and she asked why. And I told her about the cufflinks. I said, but also I had thought, I was given some advice to look for executive cut. And so I ordered these thinking they would fit better because, I'm getting larger in the gut in this region. And so the lady said, no, we don't have any shirts that come in that type of size and criteria. And so she says, there's two things you could consider. I said, okay, well, what can I consider? She said, first of all, you can have your shirts tailor-made to fit your frame better. And again, that's just not my style. I'm just not going to put money up to buy tailored shirts. It's not me. So I said, that's not an option. I'm not going to have my shirts personally tailored. And she said, well, you can do the other thing. And I said, what's that? She said, you lose some weight. So I appreciated that advice. And I think I'll just continue to be snug. Amen. But again, it's one of those things about being stretched. Being stretched. And that's why I wanted to see if you are familiar at all with what this device is right here. Everybody know what that is? What's that?
Rack.
Rack. That is called the rack. And if you're not familiar with what the rack is actually a torture device. In fact, it was created in 1447 by a British constable named John Exeter. So in 1447, a British constable named John Exeter created the rack. So I wonder if John's parents went around telling people, you know what my son did? You know, we're so proud of our boy. He created this great torture device that his name is attached to. But basically the way the rack would work is that your limbs, your arms and legs would be tied with the ropes up here and down, and there's a mechanical device that they would turn that would cause your body to stretch. And of course, they would do this to the point that your limbs, your arms and legs, would come out of the joint, would become unattached, and the pain, as you can imagine, was excruciating. And so again, it was a sense of just being pulled to the point where you could no longer keep things together. And I don't know if you, in your life, like me, have at times felt like you were being pulled in all kinds of directions. That you were being pulled into places where you felt like you were being pulled so much, you were going to what? Rip apart or become disjointed in your own life. I mean, let's be real today. What pulls us? We can feel pulled apart by work, right? We can feel pulled apart by family, right? Pulled apart by chores, housework that has to be done. Pulled apart by car problems. This week we had a flat tire and to replace a catalytic converter. You talk about being pulled apart. Pulled apart. Anybody with children? Right? Pulled apart. Pulled apart by church, the things we have to do, our to-do list. Pulled apart by health, our health concerns. But sometimes in life we can feel like we're pulled in so many directions that we feel as if everything's just coming apart. Is it just me? So one thing that's important in life is, again, to take time to set your priorities. To step back. You see, folks are going to pull on you as long as you allow them to. And that's why one thing I've learned to do in my life, and everybody just repeat this after me. Ready? No. 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 Say it again like you mean it. No. No. Sometimes you just got to tell people no. And don't explain yourself. Let your yes be yes and let your no be no. Because if you don't do that for you, you will continue to be pulled apart. And so it's important for us again to look at what is priority, what is most important for me in life, what is it that matters for me, and how do I keep that for me? Because that's really what Jesus is saying to us today in these words that we look at. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. That's what he's really calling upon us to look at, is what is, again, most important to you in life. And not by what you simply say is important, but by what you what? Do. By how you live. What does your life say about what is most important? And oftentimes in life, you may, like me, find yourself believing or saying one thing, but doing something else. It just happens. Just like your car steering can be in need of a wheel alignment, so can life. An alignment back to what is most important for me. What is the essence, again, of who I am? See, when we hear that word heart, I love when Jesus says, again, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Too often we think of this, right? That symbol for heart. Now, I'm not going to put actual heart on the screen, okay? I'm not going to gross you out today. But this is the symbol, right? Thank you, right? That's the symbol of heart. And so often we hear Jesus speak of heart, we may think of this type of heart-like expression of love that we use for Valentine's Day. Perhaps again we think of the heart that's beating within us. But really what Jesus is saying when he speaks about heart, for your treasures, that your heart will be also, what he's really saying is, in the biblical sense, heart is what is your center. What is vital? What is the essence of who you are? What is at the center of your life? And how do you know it? By how you live. Do people have to guess by what they see, or can people see and you see what's at the heart by how we live? How do we begin to get a place of prioritizing what is most important and what's here in the center? Back in the 1980s, I don't know if anybody else remembers when this happened. Anybody remember this? You know who that is? That's Geraldo. A younger Geraldo. When he was in the news back in Chicago. Anybody remember a big TV event he hosted? Back in 1980s, what was it? Remember? It was a safe. It was a vault that they found in this building. I think it was called the Lexington Hotel in Chicago. And does anybody remember who that belonged to? Al Capone. Right? Anybody else remember? Anybody else watch this? I was a young kid. I remember coming on TV. You just had to see this, right? Because what Geraldo was telling people is that we have found the secret vault, right? We have found the place where Al Capone has stashed, has stored. He was deceased, Al Capone was dead, but we found the place where he hid what? His treasure. Because they didn't find all the money he had. He had all this money and gold which never accounted for, and automobiles. And they found this secret place behind this wall at a hotel where Al Capone had frequented, and it was convincing them that Al Capone's hiding place, his safe, is behind. See that wall there? It's behind this wall, and Geraldo got the whole nation to tune in and watch. At least I did. And we couldn't wait. Maybe we can find some dead bodies. I mean, oh, this is going to be good, right? There's going to be gold, and Geraldo's going to be basking in all this cash. And oh man, I can't wait to see what's there. And so they had these excavation crews come in. If I remember, didn't they even have like a little bulldozer down there? And they started to chisel away, and they started to bang away at that wall, and you just couldn't wait. You couldn't wait until the wall fell down, and we could see what's in Al Capone's vault. And finally, they got through the wall, and there was all this dust, and the dust was around the carpet, and then the dust settled. And there was absolutely nothing. Remember that? There was, in fact, Geraldo was so embarrassed, he was like, but look at this brick. Al Capone once touched this brick. He was just finding things to give value to. Because inside of the vault of Al Capone, there was nothing. So when people look in your vault, people look in your life to see what's there, what are they going to find? What is most important to you? What is of value in your life? And how is it shown? For where your treasure is, for what you love, is where your heart will be also, Jesus says. And a lot of this, again, Jesus does speak about in this chapter, is all about our finances, our money. What do we do with the resources that we're given to? What do we do with them? How do we live with them? How do we show them? In fact, again, in chapter 12 of Luke, as we talked about last week, Luke said, Jesus said, don't fear, don't worry about what you have. God's going to provide for you, so give freely of yourself. But again, a lot of times we're so afraid to give of ourselves because we're afraid if we give, we're not going to later have. And fear dictates so much of how we live. Think about how much of our life we spend on fear. On the fear of what might be. On the fear of we spend on security. Even for us as a nation, look sometimes, you want to see what our nation values. Look at our nation's spending. Look at our budget. For we as a nation, just think of how quick we are to spend on fear. Our military budget, or the money spent to build a wall between the United States and Mexico. Do you know how much that is going to cost for us to build a wall that's all dictated by fear. Because we're afraid of who's on what? The other side of the wall. Or deploying troops to the border because we're so afraid of these poor people and what they can do in fear. Think of all that's done in fear. I still wait the day. I saw this bumper sticker years ago. I wait for the day when the military has to have bake sales to raise money for tanks and schools during that bake sales to raise money for books. Because think about how much we don't invest into education. Or we don't invest into roads and bridges and other places to build us up. Because we're so afraid of spending so much of fear money to stop them, it's one of us that walks into a synagogue and kills people while they worship. It's one of us that walks in a country bar in Thousand Oaks, California, and shoots up the place. It's not fear from outside, it's how we don't take care of ourselves. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. For where is our heart and what we are willing to give? And again, so often in life, this is how we posture ourselves. Right? Closed. This is what fear does to us. It causes us to close up. The Ravens play the Bengals today. The Bengals are without their best receiver, A.J. Green. And any Ravens fans know that A.J. Green has a field day when they play the Ravens. Right? Now, I have John Brown still on my fantasy football team. And of course, we don't know who's going to throw to him today, do we?
I think it's Lamar.
It's going to be who? Lamar Jackson? It should be interesting to watch today, right?
I think so.
But have you ever seen a wide receiver in the NFL when they go out for a pass? John Brown, or A.J. whoever it may be, Michael Crabtree, whoever it is, when they go out for a pass, have you ever seen a wide receiver run like this? Right. You ever seen that? Wide receiver go running down the field. And the ball's coming to them, they go, no. They do what? They open. Right? Especially when they get away from the defender, they're going, hey, I'm what? I'm open to receive what you have to throw or give to me. Well, how often in life we're at God like, because we're afraid. And we're not open to receive. You can't receive if you're like this. And so again, what Jesus is saying is open. Open yourself, open your life, open your heart to receive, and that's where your treasure will be. On Friday, I shared this with the board yesterday. I'm fascinated by something that happened to me on Friday. I was at the Old Court Giant, which again is also called the Gucci Giant. Right? See, I've been here long enough to know these things. So I went to the Gucci Giant on the Old Court Road to buy supplies for chili. The board met last night, and I was providing chili. I think it was pretty good, wasn't it? I do not make chili, so that's the one thing, right? That literally is the one thing, right? Providing Michelle the gigs, other stuff. So I make good chili. So I was buying supplies for chili on Friday at the Old Court Giant, and I got my bags after the cashier, and I put them in my basket, and I was just going out. And as I was going to the right, this Giant, there's a bench that is right there in the store. I think it's like before the lottery machines and the like. And as I'm pushing my cart out, there was an older gentleman, an elderly gentleman sitting on the bench. And I happened to look at him. And I just kind of looked and said, how you doing? And then he said, son. And I remember he called me son. He said, son, could you please help me? And so I stopped and said, yeah, what do you need? And I'm telling this story not to toot my horn and let you know how great a guy I am. I'm no better than anyone else. But I stopped saying, what do you need? And he said, I just need someone to help me up. And he said he sat there so long that his back and his legs were just so stiff, right? Doesn't that happen to us, right? So he said, I just can't get up. Could you help me up? So I said, sure. And he was rather thin, and again, he was an older gentleman. So I went over and I grabbed his hand. He extended it to me, but I also used to help my grandfather up. So I also knew how to kind of grab by the arm of that and to lift him up. So as I lifted him up, and this is what I'm just dealing with, what happened in this moment. As I lifted him up, he sort of lunged forward, and he put his arms on me, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he just hugged, and it wasn't like he was falling in, but he literally was like, oh. And he held me for a minute, and then as he let go, he said to me, he said, no one would look at me. He said, I've been sitting there forever, and no one would look at me. And he said, you stopped to help me. But I'm telling you that when he embraced me, I felt something that was so powerful. It's like all of a sudden I felt a connection to this other human being that I didn't know and I would probably never see again. But I would not have received that blessing had I not stopped for a minute to just help somebody that just needed to get up. And see, again, in life we can get so busy just doing and getting and consuming, we don't stop to realize we're here to help each other up. And when you help somebody else up, you will find it's not you blessing them, it's actually them blessing you. Because God is working in that moment. That's what, again, treasure, the real treasure of life, the heart of who we are, is to serve and to uplift and to make the world a better place as God has called us to do. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's what we're called to be a part of. And so a journey of faith, you will see in your own bulletin, if you look today with me, there are a couple extra sheets of paper. And one of them is a sheet that on the front says, where does my offering go? You see that? Where does my offering go? Because this is what happens when we as a church give to bless others outside of ourselves. We participate, again, as part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. That when we give, 25% of what we give helps to start and support new congregations, new places where God's work is being done through God's people. 18% goes to other missionaries throughout the world and here in the United States. 16% goes to help coordinate and support the work of the church overall. You can see again, I'm not going to read it all to you, but you can see what happens. How everything that we give, again, goes to bless others and to share the good news and to do the work of God's kingdom in places beyond ourselves. And the great news, again, at Journey of Faith is that in 2019, we are looking to give $11,000 to the ELCA. $10,500 this year. Next, we're going up to $11,000. We give $16,000 out of this congregation in overall support to work outside of these walls, to bless the lives of others. We, in our budget coming in 2019, we hope will be approved, will continue to invest $5,500 into the youth ministries here. Again, have you seen the kids singing today, right? And the kids dancing? If you came to Friday Faith Night and see all the kids that gather together, well, guess what? All that takes resources. It didn't just happen because the kids showed up one day. We put an investment into the lives of young people. And we as a church are looking to do $9,000 for evangelism and outreach, to continue to do events in our community, and again, share the love of Jesus outside of these walls. And so as a whole congregation, we're looking to continue to grow in what we give and do. But here's the thing, y'all. Everybody say we, please. We. Everybody say we. We can't grow if you won't go. Because it's a we thing. It's about us. Putting our priorities right and giving as God has given to us. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So that's why I'm done. I'm done preaching. Because it's your turn. Your turn to preach. Your turn to show. Sermons should be preached without words. Because really it's how we live. It's your turn to commit. Your turn to give. Of yourself. Because in your bulletin, there's also again a pledge form that we gave out 2 months ago. And we sent to everyone. They asked us to give. They asked us to hopefully grow in our giving. And we're not here to extort. We're not here to pressure. We're not here to, as other churches use all kinds of different devices. We're here to invite. To invite you to also grow and place your priorities in what you do. Because it's a chance for us again to practice what we preach. And to live what we believe. For I close with this story. One of my favorite stories. I believe I've shared it before here, but I can't quite remember. I probably have. But it's a story about St. Francis. Now, not the Pope currently, although the current Pope takes his name from St. Francis, who was a priest, who was a monk, who had a real heart for two things, the poor and the environment. And actually, he's the priest, the saint, the blessing the animals and the like, of St. Francis. So the story is told about St. Francis, how he was traveling throughout Europe. And he'd go into different villages, and he'd go and preach the gospel, and he'd go and share God's love. So one day he and his protege, the man traveling with him, were going to a village. And St. Francis said to him, come on, let's go and preach the gospel in this village. And as they walked into the village, there was a man on the side of the road who had broken his leg. So St. Francis stopped, and with his companion, his friend, they stopped and they bandaged up this man's leg. And they said a prayer with him, and then they continued on. They came a little further, and they found a young boy who was very hungry, who hadn't eaten in some time. So St. Francis went into his basket of food he had, and he gave some to this young man, so this young boy was able to eat. And they prayed with him, and they continued on. Finally came to a widow, a woman who had lost her husband, and she was so alone and so upset, so that they stopped and comforted her, and they talked with her. And again, St. Francis shared out of what he had with her to eat. And after St. Francis had now been with 3 different people, he then looked at his friend and said, come on, let's go to the next village. And the man said, wait a minute, hold on. I thought you said we were going to preach the gospel in this village. And St. Francis said, my friend, we already have. Because again, preaching the gospel is not about what we say as much as it is about what we do. And how we live and how we live out our faith. And one big part is how we live out our faith in how we give. So we're invited today, all invited today to be a part of that.